Oh, you're back for more, huh? Well, welcome back to Road to 10 Billion, week number 6. I kind of wanted to fit in here also week number 7, as I said last time, but too much happened on week number 6. So I suppose let's just continue from where we left off on the previous episodes, from Monday, right before I was about to move the last of my crates and actually do what I would consider to be the biggest crate turn-in so far, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of profit. So after moving this one more horse, I went to the villa to pick up the life skill buff, just for that 10% extra experience. One of my main goals was to actually get as much experience as possible. I was hoping for Master 12 trading. So I picked up the Villa buff. I also picked up another 1-day value pack to remote invest in the nodes to make the Valencia connection and for that 10% experience. And obviously I picked up the desert trading buff to actually make the profit. After that I moved into Valencia with my ranger, ready to turn in everything, and after turning in 3 horses filled with copper crates, I realized that, I was supposed to eat the anniversary cake to get another 100% life skill experience, and in the same time to test it to see if the cake works, because some people actually complain that it doesn't work. So after making this realization, I switched to my wizard, I went into my Hydel house, I picked up the anniversary cake that was just sitting there to look nice. And at the same time I decided, why make the trip just to move one cake, why not also pick some more trash crates in the process. I did that, I moved one more horse back to Valencia along with the cake, and after eating this delicious cake on my ranger and getting super buffed for 24 hours, I continued the rest of the crate turn-in process. At this point you may already know how this process works, so I turn in the trash crates with as many buffs as I possibly can get, then I move 2 steps on the left to the marketplace NPC, I put a pre-order on some item, then immediately cancel it to move the money easier to the storage and repeat the process over and over. So let me put some nice music now on and shuffle through the rest of my trash crate horses. Here we are, 78,000 crates later, with my character sitting on Master 10 trading and 99% experience. I kind of felt bad when I saw that, because I even moved the little bit of paprika crates that I had left, like 3,000 or 4,000 of those, just to hit Master 11, and in the end I was stuck at 99%. Anyway, after this my perfume expired and I was pretty much done with my trash crates, so I decided I'm going to hit Master 11 when I turn in the valuable ones, so I started moving those. First, I began with the Calphion ones. You may have seen them a couple of times on my Porteferia storage. I stacked quite a lot of those from back in the days when I would create them in Porteferia. So I moved 6.2 thousand Calphion crates, and when it came to actually turning them in, I realized that you can only store in your inventory 999 million. You can't exactly have more, so to my surprise I had to turn in the Calphion crates twice, even though it wasn't a maximum stack. Out of these Calphion crates, I got 1.2 billion profit, so quite a lot. It's quite nice progress. Anyway, after the Calphion crates, I proceeded to move the media ones, which not exactly as much, only 3000 of these this time. Turning them in made about 492 million, so less than half of what I made from the Calphion ones, but still quite a lot of money. And last but not least, we have Balenos crates. I only had 402 of those because I kind of experimented with them at some point and stopped the production. I moved them because I made 45 millions out of this turn-in, so definitely still worth the time to move them, to turn them in and so on. So this is pretty much the entire crate turn-in process, simplified. The trash crates were about 78,000, the valuable ones about 9.7 thousand, and in total, out of all of this is still Monday, so all of this in one day, I made around 2.16 billion silver. So a lot of money. You may have expected this at this point, but hey, the crates had to be turned in at some point. If you didn't pay attention to the screenshots, you may be asking, did the cake actually work? Well, no. I ended up wasting a 24-hour buff that I could have used for combat experience, because I believe either life skill experience has a cap that once you hit you don't get any more experience no matter how many buffs you stack, or the cake was just simply bugged, because you can look at the screenshots yourself, comparing the turn-in process from before eating the cake and after eating it, the exact same amount of crates. In fact, you can even look at the same type of crate, the copper ones, the experience is pretty much identical. So conclusion, either I hit the cap or the cake didn't work. So feels bad, but oh well. I ended Monday by disconnecting the nodes that were connected all the way to Valencia and using all of that CP to get some fences. Why? Because I didn't really need extra nodes, and because I could maybe use those fences to maybe make something useful for cooking for the future, which I actually did, because I placed sunflowers, special sunflowers on these fences, which I did use to cook later some tea with fine scent and milk tea. I believe one of them or both of them uses sunflowers. Which means that we are finally moving one day later into Tuesday. Tuesday I started experimenting or trying out the tea with fine scent and milk tea recipes for Imperial delivery, and this is why I needed to have some sunflowers, because I didn't want to buy them from the marketplace. I did my Imperial delivery for that day with some of these milk tea and fine scent crates, but not really all of them, after which I attempted to sell my second dandelion box. I kind of regret it now because I didn't end up getting anything for it because the pre-order didn't succeed, and I maybe could have used it for something, I don't know. After this attempt to sell the dandelion box, I went to Manshaums and Polyforest just to poke the monsters a little bit. I felt like grinding, but somehow I got bored really quickly in the process, and after that just simply went to sleep. Why? Because I didn't really sleep Monday. Later that day, I was contemplating this idea of starting a new series very similar to the money per hour ones, so I went to Nagas to grind for roughly 3 hours, maybe make something out of that. But since in all this time we actually got the Kafra Stone patch, I don't think I'm going to use this data anywhere else, maybe, so why not mention it here. Out of these 3 hours at Nagas, I would say I made roughly 12 to 15 millions per hour, if for anyone interested. The sad part is that Nagas have a very bad scroll drop rate, so they are pretty nerfed in that aspect, but at least the Blackstone drop rate is pretty good. Doesn't seem to be an amazing place, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, after these 3 hours at Nagas, you can see you saw the loot table on the screen, you can make your own profit if you wish. So moving on, I turned in a couple more Imperial cooking crates in Vell, just because I found the channel, open. And I ended Tuesday by actually getting 317 CP. Wednesday was very uneventful, pretty much nothing happened as far as my screenshots can tell me. Before the maintenance I have nothing, and after the maintenance it says that I was offline for 1 day. So something happened that day, but who knows. Thursday I began with a little bit of Imperial delivery. I did on the same server Vell, then I moved to Olvia, turned in some crates there, then I moved to Calphian and turned some more crates there, and then once I got bored of this, I just simply went all the way to the old Wisdom 3 place and I hired a giant worker, or the equivalent of a giant worker that had +3 timber production, to start moving my valuable crate production in old Wisdom 3. I also tried out Manshaums for about 2 hours, split between a couple of sessions, because I was curious to see what is the grinding speed difference between my ranger and my wizard if they have the exact same level and exact same gear score. Since this week I was kind of going back into maining my ranger for grinding as well, so I was curious to see this difference, and it turns out that my ranger is in fact slower than my wizard when it comes to grinding the monsters that don't exactly get one-shotted. To give you some comparison, on my wizard I can get maybe 2,500 trash per hour at Manshaums if I really try, while on ranger it's 2,000 or maybe 2,200 per hour at best. So there is a difference. Once I got bored and went back into old Wisdom 3, I decided that maybe it's not worth leveling up a giant that has +3 production, and maybe I'm just better off spending the time and energy now to get a goblin that has +3 production. And here is a tip for you if you didn't hear it before. An easy way to get +3 timber or ore production workers in old Wisdom 3 is to move all of your alts here, shuffle through all of their energy on the shop, because you have a very high chance to hire artisan workers, and if their first skill is not the +3 production, then just simply hire the worker and try another one and another one and another one until you get the one you want to have. So I did that, I believe only on my ranger and wizard at first, and I got a goblin with +3 timber production, after which I decided that maybe I should just simply buy +1 lodging from the pearl shop and have 2 old wisdom 3 workers and attempt to get a second one that has ore production +3. So I did that. I bought +1 lodging from the Pearl shop to have 2 workers in Old Wisdom 3, and after that I moved all of my alts into Old Wisdom 3 to have as much energy as I can possibly get, and after shuffling through pretty much all of them, on the very last character I got the luck to get a goblin that has +3 ore production. So a pretty nice experiment, I suppose, or experience. In the end I got two goblins with ore +3 and iron +3 production, and I was pretty much ready to move my entire valuable crate production into Old Wisdom 3, which is exactly what I did. I believe that's pretty much it for Thursday. After moving all of my characters back and spending a couple of hours organizing the materials between my banks, I poked Manshaums a little bit more, 20 minutes or so, and then I collected the sunflowers from my fences, which at that point already grew up. So moving on, we get into Friday. Friday I did 2 guild quests at Nagas. This is when I was starting to attempting to push my payout as high as I possibly can to get as much guild money as I can. So I did some guild quests. I grinded Crescents for about 1 hour and 13 minutes. If you're interested in the income, you can see on the screen my screenshots. And I got in this time 1 ring, which was very lucky. I mean, I can't say I made 50 millions per hour because of this ring, but it's not exactly realistic. After grinding at Crescent, initially I wanted to move to Fogans to do a guild quest, but I messed up my weight limit and spent 1 hour trying to get back to Bazaar with my character overweight and the horse or camel, whatever it was, dead. Once I got back, I collected my fences, as in the sunflowers, which already grew. I bought some more Serendia storage. I decided to use the spare loyalty points that I have, and I never end up using them, to buy more storage for my Hydel bank, so that I don't have to invest contribution points or as many contribution points into just simply having storage. So I spent around 6,000 loyalty to get Hydel storage, and now I literally have to wait 2 weeks in between getting the 1-day value packs. Saturday was a pretty boring day. I could just simply skip it entirely because all that happened was some more cooking, some Imperial delivery, and I also hit 318 CP, so I guess that is some progression. Also grinded Manshaums for about half an hour more, just simply poking the monsters so I can feel like, it's something exciting. And now we can skip to Sunday, where I actually do have something to talk about. Sunday morning I got to snipe my, let's say, dream tier 8 horse. It didn't have sprint, so that's a bummer, but it does have the rest of the good skills. So it does have charge, drift, instant accel, and S instant accel, which is what I was looking for. So after getting this tier 8 horse, obviously none of its skills were trained, so I had to look up online what is the fastest way possible to train a horse, and I can tell you now what that was. So I spent about 2 hours or 3, I believe, just simply training this tier 8 horse to max out its skills. For charge, the easiest way to do it is to just simply spam Q on some dummies that you can find along the road. Is the easiest way to do it because your horse will not go through them, so you can just simply spam it all day long. For drift, it's a little bit more complicated, and actually I'm just going to link up the video that I used to learn all of this. It's easier than me doing a bad job at explaining it. Anyway, if you are interested, for drift you can just simply rebind your W key, the one that you use to move forward, to a mouse button so you can spam it easily, and while doing the normal drift animation, the normal drift buttons, you spam the mouse one, and this way you can train drift a lot easier because it's going to skip through the mini game. Basically that's the entire point. For charge, for drift and the other skills, the main idea is to try to skip the minigame that pops up every time your horse fails to use that skill. So for charge, if you go through those dummies over and over, it's not going to pop up the minigame even if the skill fails. For drift as well, if you rebind the forward key and you spam it like that, or how you can see in that video, the minigame is not going to pop up. And then for instant accel and S instant accel, you can do that by just simply running with your horse inside a wall, I mean straight in a wall, and right as the flash animation is going to pop up, the one that pops up when instant acceleration is supposed to happen, right as that one happens, you either drift or charge or do something else to cancel the animation, and if you get it right, you're going to not have the minigame pop up. So that's pretty much what I did for about 2 to 3 hours to train this horse, and in the end I was quite happy because yeah, a tier 8 horse is somewhat faster, or maybe much faster than my old tier 6. You might be wondering, but Duo, how much money did this horse cost you? You didn't tell us yet, and we don't really pay attention to the screen. The horse was about 165 millions, so that's how much I spent for it, and we are going to deduct that from our progress through this series. So after training this horse, I went to gather some rough stones, again to keep my cooking utensil production going and to have, you know, utensils to cook. I only had one axe on me, so I didn't go through all of my energy, but still somehow I had the luck to get 6 shards, so a pretty nice day. And after that we get into Vell. Before going to Vell, maybe some people don't know this, so I may as well mention it now. I tried to join Vogan's guild quest, but apparently if your contract is expired you can't join guild quests, so here's some additional information. And then on Sunday evening I went with a guild party to do Vell for the first time.
Oh my god, there's a fucking tornado coming through.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Oh my god!
Oh, that's genius.
In the middle of all the fucking ships.
That's fucking genius. Don't worry, it doesn't move. It doesn't move. It stay there.
No,
Honest.
this is fucking.
One ship
Should be so.
got destroyed. Just saw it like go underwater.
Yeah, same.
Oh my god.
I was hoping it would be an interesting experience, you know, some epic battle on the seas with a guild galley that shoots some form of big monster and a lot of evasive shots and whatever, but no. When we got there and it was actually time to do Vell, I mean there was a lot of waiting time, we even had some hurricanes around there. It was pretty funny seeing the ships around us just simply sink into the ocean. When it was time to do Vell, the server kind of crashed.
Could you like go back a bit again?
You lagged out?
Like this? Is
No, I
okay?
can't.
What the fuck is going on? My
Wait a
camera.
second.
I don't see anyone.
That should be good, yeah.
Oh, I took damage. Damn it.
Someone rammed and ate the...
Whoa!
What the fuck? I can't.
Oh, I got disconnected.
Yeah, I just fell from the ship.
I got disconnected.
Oh, I know what's happening. Savers are dying.
Oh yeah, there was a dying note.
Basically, it was too many people on one server, we could barely move or do anything at all. I myself didn't even manage to poke the boss once to get any form of loot. So we wasted probably 2 hours or so getting absolutely nothing. I believe one of our party members got loot and got 20 something millions in drops, so that's pretty nice, but I got nothing. So a bummer, but at least now I know what to expect out of, you know, doing Vell. Maybe I should have tried, or maybe next time I will try to use a server that isn't as populated, if I ever end up going back to Vell. So yeah, now I know what it is all about. Going back to shore, I again went through my fences, through the very nice sunflowers that I'm growing up, and ending Sunday, our guild usually does guild bosses, as in our case put rooms, every Sunday, so I joined that. It's a command to gather together. Before that, I went to Nagas just to poke the monsters a little bit, feel like I'm making some income before the time comes for the scrolls, and funny enough, I did manage to get income. I got a duo setup drop. I think this is my first ever duo accessory drop that I ever got. Too bad it's very cheap. I got this one before the scrolls, and I made the very bad decision of selling it on the marketplace after the scrolls, because this duo setup was very cheap. I believe 100 something million at that time. I could have waited a couple of weeks because this is also around when we had the chest event. So anyway, after the put room scrolls, I can show you what I got out of them on the screen. Another pro tip, don't do them unless you have special deals enabled, because you're going to get a lot of armor pieces and they do weigh quite a lot. After the put room scrolls, we went to do the guild chest event summon thing. This is the one that I was talking about, and I believe because of this the setup prices were very low and I made the bad decision to sell it. Yeah, I could have gotten probably 50 million more, I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty much all that happened. This is the end of week number 6. As I said, it was quite eventful. I believe this is quite a lot, at least for me, a casual player. I'm not going to make an end of week recap because I don't feel the need to. I can just say that in my bank I can see that I had around 6 billion, basically adding up the 30 something millions left in Vell from when I had to move money to actually buy the horse, the tier 8, plus what I got out of my guild payout, which I didn't mention yet. I got 98 million, all of those guild quests and joining node wars and stuff like that for this week got me 98 million, which was actually quite nice. Adding up all of that, we have around 6 billion in terms of current money in the bank. So we are pretty much past half of the way to 10 billion. Granted, most of it was from the crates, but still. Thanks for watching. This is the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, or if you didn't, at least you maybe learned some extra information about the game. And I will see you guys in the next part, which may or may not include 2 weeks, depending on how much actually happened in those weeks. Just keep playing Black Desert, stay happy, and bye bye.
Someone came up with a fishing boat.
What? Where? No. Oh, there's another tornado on the right too. Like on south.